Guys, we're back on air. It's been a while.
It's been too long, Vitor. Absolutely.
In 2 years.
Certainly has.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Vitor. This is Bob. This is Vivian. Some of you may know us, some of you don't. In short, I'm Portuguese. They came to Portugal. So we're doing this to talk a little bit about their experiences, how life has been here, and what's been going on, what's new. Because it seems like once we did the other video, you guys kind of became small micro celebrities here. So about half of the clients that talked to us to come here into Portugal, they all requested an audience with you too.
That's been fun.
So
It has been a lot of fun.
So yeah, and I understand that you've recently also, started playing around with some business ideas and some ways that you can offer things to people coming over. But right now, we can get to that a little bit later on. But I want to know how you've been, how your life has been, how your experience has been. I understand also that you went back to the US for a while for some things.
We did.
So did that help you in any way notice the difference between Portuguese life and American life that you may had forgotten after staying here for a while?
I don't think we've forgotten, but if we want to start at the nearby and work, and then go back to that initial video, which we had so much fun with, that.
It made us really appreciate Portuguese life. Going back to the U.S. for 6 weeks made us really appreciate coming home. This is the first place that I've ever lived that it's more fun to come home than it is to leave on a trip. So that's a good feeling.
It was a very good feeling. The biggest difference, so that's just been in the last couple months, and the big thing that we noticed was the speed of everything there, besides the cost, which had gone up significantly since we left. But the speed of life in the United States versus the speed of life in Portugal is a lot faster. I was doing the driving, and the first thing I noticed that was for the first time in 2.5 years, I got cut off trying to merge by somebody speeding up so I couldn't. And now, we don't drive Lisbon, we don't drive Porto very much, but in this part of the country, right around Ponte Lima, Viana do Castelo, in the Minho region, I think it's because the roads are so narrow.
It might be, but we've driven all over the country.
Well, we have.
And we've driven on motorways and all, and people just don't do that here.
Yeah.
They just don't do it.
They're
Courteous drivers for the most part. There are some who will tailgate, and there's some who go really fast on the motorways, but that's what they're for.
Yeah.
So
it's, people stopping literally stopping on the street to let somebody in because they know it's a blind corner. That's one of the things I notice in the villages is that people are very aware that, hey, I can't see pulling out of that corner because there's a wall on both sides of me. So they're aware to let the guy coming out in because somebody else does it for them. There's a gentleness here that it's not just in the driving, but pace of life and interactions for us have been very, very pleasant.
it's not aggressive. Everywhere we went in the U.S. felt aggressive, in the stores and on the roads, and there's just an aggressiveness there that doesn't exist here. It might in Lisbon, I don't know, but even when we're there, we don't feel that. There's no frenetic energy. It's just good energy. People get excited, people are happy, but there's no feeling.
Yeah.
So it seems like driving is one of the things that stood out to you the most.
Yeah.
Well, he
really
did all the
was.
driving.
I did all driving.
So.
But it jumped out as
Interesting.
Yeah, and I've heard people that move here from, say, the U.S. or Canada that complain about the driving, and we just haven't had that. We just haven't had that kind of an issue. I absolutely, well, the other thing besides getting cut off on a merge for the first time and being cut off repeatedly by people going 3-4 lanes to get to an exit.
That
the other
happened in Miami.
That sounds safe.
Yeah.
Oh, in the rain. I mean, he had to slam on brakes and to keep
There's
from hitting
somebody
him.
behind me.
And they just went
But-
4 lanes all the way across the road.
So
And
anyway,
then almost missed the exit.
besides that, getting back into a world of stoplights was really hard for me.
Oh, yeah.
I love traffic circles. I love the flow. And for me, a lot of things here, like that flow in the traffic circles, I feel like life's more of a dance. Things have the opportunity to flourish here, perhaps because it's a little slower. These are my perspectives. But these roses, for example, the flowers, you stick a hydrangea in the ground, just the trimming stick, and it grows.
Yeah.
There's
The roses grow. You stick a stick in the ground and the rose
And
grows.
the rose grows.
It's just, everything grows.
Yeah.
So the driving episode is gone, and now we're in the gardening episode.
Well, but it's just all part of that. It's part of
People
that
grow
adjustment.
here.
Yeah, it's part of the adjustment that we've had, part of that pace, part of everything. It's just life here is different. Now we also notice significant differences in housing and that kind of stuff, but maybe we'd ought to go back to when we were looking for a house and back to 2 years ago, and now that's a current, How about if we go back?
Sure. But just before we do that, you mentioned the slower pace of life and how things are faster there. This is one of my favorite stories from people who moved here into Portugal, that she came into Porto and she went to buy a car, right? She had just arrived. She has found a house, everything. And so she's there at the car stand and they're going over the cars and the paperwork and everything. They're 1 hour into the process. And then all of a sudden the guy goes, now it's my lunch break. So I'm going to go to the restaurant and have my lunch. You can wait here at the office if you want. I'll be back in an hour. And the guy leaves.
Yeah.
Would that ever happen in the US?
No.
Without the salesperson having a lawsuit?
No, that would never happen.
Not be a lawsuit necessarily,
Yeah.
but it would be a complaint for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
That exemplifies the pace a lot
Yes.
difference.
Neither side in the U.S. would ever even consider that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. It's certainly different.
It's different.
It's different. Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it.
I've had many clients in the US, and I don't know if people watching can relate that basically their lunch break was 15 minutes
Yes.
where they had a packed sandwich
Yes.
and they had 15 minutes to eat their lunch while handling clients.
Right.
And often they would get home with the sandwich still in the bag.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Right.
here, it's the opposite. Like
It
sometimes
is.
you need to get something done. You go to a store and it's closed, and then you check the schedule. Oh, they're closed from 1 to 3 p.m. for a lunch break.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, in Spain for sure. Yeah.
And it was an adjustment when we got here. It was a big adjustment when we got here to learn that.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times we get hungry in the middle of the day because we eat kind of a late breakfast. We get hungry in the middle of the day and say, it's 3:00, but there's nothing open. And we'd end up, but then we found out there are cafeterias in the grocery stores. So it saved us. They're open all the time and the food is good. You know,
Okay,
there's
so
nothing wrong with it.
grocery store is a solution
Grocery
for
stores.
foreigners who want to have dinner at 5 p.m.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or 3:00. If you want to have lunch at 3:00, go to the grocery store and they have cafeterias and the food is pretty good and it's Portuguese and it's good. We love it.
Yeah, usually.
Sometimes we go there when we don't have to.
Usually restaurants here serve lunch, I think, between noon and 2 p.m., give or take. Usually between 2 and 3 p.m., the restaurants get like some stragglers or whatever.
Yes.
But it's usually restaurants have lunch at around 3
noon
p.m.
to 3. Yeah,
So
noon to 3 they're open.
That's kind of like the transition period.
Yes.
And then for dinner, usually between 7 or 8 is when
Most of
start
them
up.
open at 7 now, so 7 to 10, so
Yeah.
7-Eleven.
Ones we haven't found it. Well,
Once
last
in a
night we
while you'll
found it.
find one that doesn't close, but it's rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so it's just all part of the adjustment, and we've met so many people since we've been here.
I've met at least 3.
Yeah, that are asking about different things, and it's like you just mentioned, Vitor. It's not good or bad. It's just different, and whether it be the housing or the driving or well, not knowing the language is different for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's been the hardest thing for me, is not knowing the language and the difficulty in learning it. So if anyone wants to come start learning Portuguese,
Yeah.
it can only help.
Yeah.
It's a difficult language.
The
But,
challenge we're in with you and Maria right now
but
is
we're learning.
fantastic.
We're learning faster. Oops.
It's fantastic, but we keep getting interrupted. And,
Yes.
but it's,
Life is made of interruptions.
It is, but it's been, the course is great. I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
A course? You're taking a course?
A course.
of course we are.
The 30-day Portuguese challenge, yes.
Very good.
So-
Very
Taught by
good.
our lovely Maria here.
But it's,
And
yeah.
it's so good. You do something every day, which is what we need, because the once a week classes just don't do it for us. So something every day. We meet once a week, but we have something to do every day, and it helps so much.
Just
Yeah.
goes back to
Yeah.
everybody's being different, everybody's
Yes.
adjusts differently, you know, and but it's not it's not good or bad. It's just the way it works for us. So
Yeah. I mean, one way or another, learning languages really is all about immersion.
It is.
Like
is.
you guys didn't learn English, and I didn't learn Portuguese with our mom going over. Okay, here are all of the verbs. Let's practice the verb table and the conjugation table, and
Right.
now let's study the grammar. And
Right.
it just happened.
It did.
There are something even about Portuguese, which surprise, surprise, I speak Portuguese for about 30 years now, or 29 years now. I don't know when I started speaking, but. There are parts about the Portuguese grammar and structure and whatever that I'm only figuring out now how it works. I know how to speak, I know how to communicate, but and I'm sure you're
I'm the same
the
way
same
in
way
English.
with English,
I have
right?
forgotten how it all works. I learned it at one time, but I've been speaking it so long I've forgotten.
Yeah.
I do it correctly, but I couldn't tell you why.
and that's one of the reasons why we did this language challenge the way we did, because we find that when it comes to language learning, and I've been learning a lot also how language learning works, when it comes to language learning, as adults, we have a tendency of complicating things. And okay, now we're logical and blah, 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 and we understand things, so let's break it down and study it academically and do the grammar. I even saw one guy that mentioned that usually when people start learning a certain language, in school, for example, they start with the alphabet and then the sounds and this and that. But the reality is you don't have anything to use it on, right? So if you start if I start learning Arabic, for example, and I start learning the alphabet and all of those things, I don't know the context. I don't know how it's used. I don't know anything. But if I start by, okay, let's practice listening, my introduction, what I'm called, or how do I do this, or I want that. And then I learn how to write it. Okay, so this is how I write the words that I already know.
in case anybody
That's
wondered,
Gus. That's
that's our
Gus.
street dog.
Yes, we didn't plan to have a dog.
Yeah.
We promised each other 5 years without a dog, but we've been doing dog rescue since we got here, and they called us to go and find the little guy because he was in people's chicken coops and he was going to get killed. So we
And they had a place for him to go.
and they had a
The
foster
rescue
home
had a
for
place
him.
for
All
him to
we
go.
were supposed to do was pick him up and take him to Monsal to the foster home. So we had all that lined up, and we got in the car, and they said, "How old is the puppy?" And I said, Oh, he's not a puppy. He's a grown dog. He's probably 1, 2, I don't know. He's young, but he's grown. And they said, let me call you right back. And I'm going, oh, no.
Whoa.
So the foster fell through, and they said, can you just keep him tonight? I said, I can keep him one night. One night. One. And then it became a week, and Bob named him Bye-Bye. When anyone asked what his name was, he said his name's Bye-Bye, because we weren't going to keep him. And we were trying hard not to fall in love with this dog. And he had different ideas, and he was working as hard. So anyway, after 2 weeks, we went to the vet and to have his chip put in. And Bob kind of hung his head and said, I told him I loved him this morning. I said, you did not. He said, yeah.
Every time.
I did.
The dad goes like,
did.
no, we won't have any dogs. 2 weeks later, I love you.
Yes, yes. So it went from bye-bye to I love you, man.
Yeah.
So we kept him.
So yeah, dogs.
His name is Gustavo Garcia.
Another diversion. But,
Yeah.
And it's so weird. Like, they wanted a puppy, but not a grown dog. Like, puppies are so much harder to take care
so
of.
much harder.
I don't
Yeah.
understand the logic in that. And
I
by the
don't
way,
either.
for anybody listening, I have a background in dog behavior as well. Dogs' behavior can be molded and shaped, and a dog isn't broken or whatever
Right.
from their past. They, unlike humans, live in the moment. So
Yes.
if the moment changes,
Totally.
so do we.
They do.
And from my experience, dogs that had a bad background, they keep having certain issues
They do.
because we project it onto them. Because we pity them, we feel sorry for them. They don't remember anything that happened in their past pretty much already. But we think, oh my God, he was so badly treated 5 years ago, so I'm going to, I don't know, hide the subject or whatever. Anyway, we're not here to talk about dogs.
No.
But it's part of life in Portugal.
Yes, it is.
2 years, you said?
2 years.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
It's been 2.5 years. December of 21.
Are we in a
Right.
simulation? Did somebody press fast forward or?
It went so fast.
It has.
It's gone so fast.
Goodness.
I was really concerned, and I think we talked a little bit about it on our first conversation on video 2 years ago, what I was going to do being retired. And because I basically retired, finished the house, we sold everything and moved. And I found there are so many opportunities to be involved in so many different ways.
And here we are involving you in another one.
Yeah.
He was afraid he'd be bored. He doesn't have time to be bored.
No.
There's always
Well,
people to help, people to visit
that's a
with,
lot of it.
a lot of social life. It's just taking drives, finding new things.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
stumbling across a dolmen, which is a standing rock formation, has been there for 5,000 years, and it's just sitting in a park in Ankara. We're just driving along, and she sees a dolmen sign, and we turn a corner, and there it is.
And there it is.
And it's that way across the country. The antiquity here continues to amaze us. So between just getting up and going and doing different things, volunteering, helping people move, done a lot of
He
that.
helped with grape harvest. We helped with whatever needs doing. Yeah.
So we're networking with people all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And,
Yep. You thought you came here to retire and you're working 10 times harder than you were before.
No, but it's all fun. All fun
Yes,
work.
Yes.
But it's on your schedule.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, we have to remind ourselves that we are in charge of our life.
Yes.
We just had this conversation yesterday. We are in charge of our life.
Yes.
And sometimes it doesn't feel like it.
Yes, I usually say I'm the captain of my ship.
Yeah.
I choose how I sink it.
Yes. That's a good one.
Please send help. We're unemployed every day. We have a business. We pay our own salary plus Social Security.
That's right.
No kidding.
Whether you make any money or not.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I've been there.
But there's a lot of that there. there have been shifts along the way. That when we had that conversation, we weren't yet in this house, or we'd just gotten it.
I think you had just gotten it.
I think
yeah.
we had just
So we
gotten
hadn't
in.
furnished it yet, had we?
No, we had not furnished it. We had so much fun furnishing the house
Mm-hmm.
That was
because
a
we
blast.
went to secondhand stores, which are not easy to find in
Charity
Portugal.
shops, yeah.
I still haven't found any. You need to give me
yeah.
their contacts.
There are.
yeah.
Okay, we can give them to you.
Oh, small side note. I found that many expats, immigrants, whatever you want to call them, that come here, they find certain hidden gems that even we as Portuguese don't realize exist.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's been great for us to talk to people like you because we learned so
Yes.
much more about our own country.
Well, we go out looking for things and, let
Yeah.
you know if we find them. But yeah, these secondhand stores are great. So our whole house is furnished with secondhand furniture, and I like antiques. And that's what I had in the U.S. We didn't have new furniture. And so we love it. I mean, we had to buy new mattresses and things, but the beds are they're these huge, ornate things that look like they're a queen or something should be sleeping in them. So every night I go to bed and,
Feel like it. Yeah. No, that's my job. I do. You do wave. Right?
yeah, I wave and say good night, good night.
Well, how
We're
do
going
you-
to bed now.
How do you describe your furnishings?
Old Portuguese grandma.
But I mean, they are
It
great to
is.
look at.
Well, we
It-
had
Nothing against IKEA.
No,
it's
nothing
great
at all.
if you're
It's
starting your
great.
life
If
and whatever.
well,
And
it's
Yeah,
whatever you want.
yeah.
But
My daughter had IKEA 30 years ago, so it's great for what it is. But this is good quality stuff that will still be here 100
Yeah.
years from
Yeah.
now, and it'll still look the same.
I heard some of it isn't
Yeah.
that much more expensive.
It's
Well,
not
this
near
was
as
not as
expensive. It's
expensive
not
because it
nearly
was
as
all
expensive
used.
as new
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, maybe everybody just goes to IKEA and doesn't try to look at secondhand furniture.
I think
I don't know.
so.
Well,
I think they do.
Part of it's
And
the style. We like this style. Fits
not everybody
us.
likes this style, but
We
we
had
do.
we did have one lady who lived in Portugal till she was a teenager, and she walked in and said, "It's my grandma's house."
And I was so flattered.
Good.
And she said, "I'm
Good.
sorry, I don't mean that in a bad way." I said, "Oh no, I think it's great." I said, I call it Portuguese grandma style.
Grandmas are the best.
Yes,
Grandmas are the
I
best.
call it
So-
Portuguese grandma style, and so it's the stuff that none of the kids wanted, and so they donate it to these shops and they resell it to keep the charity going. So I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Works out for everybody.
And in some way, it seems like you're kind of the grandma to many people that come here.
Yes.
And your cooking is definitely at grandma level, so that's
I'm
terrific.
Ponte Lima's grandma. Yes,
yeah.
I am.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you could talk about. I don't have grandkids. I have 3 kids that are still in Colorado as young adults. But a lot of people ask about what's it like leaving grandkids, and you could talk about that a little bit.
Yes, I didn't leave my grandkids until they were teenagers. I would not have moved when they were younger. I was very close to them. I lived down the street from them, so I was a huge part of their life, and we were very close. And so when I left, they're now 17, and Samantha will be 20 in June. And they've already been here on their own.
Yeah.
So they came to visit on their own and just loved it and can't wait to come back. Samantha will be back in September, and hopefully Dylan will come sometime this summer. And I only have the 2. I wish I had 14, but I only have the 2. And leaving your family is a big issue. I loved the part of going back to the U.S. I loved was seeing my family and seeing all my aunts and uncles, my brother, my cousins. We had a family reunion while we were there. We had Easter while we were there, which was another whole part of the family.
Yeah.
So I loved that part of it. And we went and visited Bob's family, and it was great. But leaving your family is a big deal, especially if you're close to them. And I found the grandchildren the hardest. But they will come and see you. You can go back and see them. You can call and video call as much as you want. It doesn't cost anything. So it's not insurmountable, but it is a consideration when you come. And it, like I said, if they had been small, I couldn't have left them when they were small. But it all worked out just right.
And I mentioned my kids are young adults. My youngest is not a whole lot older than her oldest grandchild.
Yes.
Granddaughter. But Holly's already been here twice.
Yes.
And the others are talking about coming. So it's cool to have family come where it's much easier to live in the now with family when you're in a totally new place like this, you know. So now they're not coming to visit dad's house or grandma's house or whatever, and it's all familiar. So everything's new. Sometimes we need to have Gus's attitude of this is today and this is what I have. And so when family comes to visit, we get the fun of sharing with them what our now is like.
Yeah.
And that's a blast.
That's a good point, and I don't know how well this relates to what you just said, but you reminded me of something I thought about the other day. So here in Portugal, we're about 5 to 8 hours ahead of the U.S. East Coast,
Right.
West Coast, whatever.
Right.
And recently, as you know, I've been learning Chinese. I'm getting to a point where I can have some conversation. So I found a way to find some Chinese friends. I have them on WeChat, which is kind of like the
Sure.
WhatsApp they use.
Okay.
Sure.
That thing is really handy. It has everything. You can make payments in there, all kinds
Oh,
of stuff.
wow.
Anyway,
Yeah.
and they are about 7 or 8 hours ahead
Oh, wow.
of us. Now, one thing I notice is that, when I wake up, they're already getting the end of their day,
Right.
they're leaving work or whatever.
Right.
And when it's like 3 p.m., some of them are going to bed already, others are getting ready, and so on and so forth. Which means that conversations are sometimes kind of like sending a letter in the mail, more like having an actual conversation. And that made me think that one other time I saw somebody post about how, people who don't reply within the hour or the minute to messages. And somebody mentioned that it's the first time in history where everybody is connected immediately.
Instantly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, that was never the case.
No.
Like, even when I was growing up, we had phones, but they were landline, right?
Sure.
You would go about your life. And,
Right.
like, if you had kids, they would go out, they would have fun and play. You had a vague idea of where they were.
Sure.
But you just kind of had to wait until they came back home
Right.
to know what it was, or you start calling their friends or
Right.
whatever. And that made me realize, like, how different would it be if, for example, messages had a delay, or if whenever you wanted to talk to someone, they were in bed and then they would reply when you were in bed and so on and so forth. It wouldn't be the way we talk now. It wouldn't be, hey, hi, how's it going? I'm good. How about you? Like, imagine if you could only send like one message a day
Right.
or a week,
Right.
right? Like sending a letter. I'm guessing that when people sent letters, it wouldn't be like, hey, just thinking about you. How have you been?
Yeah.
Exactly.
There
Right.
would be more meaning to it,
Of
right?
course there would.
Hi, I'm writing
Sure.
because I've been thinking about you.
Yes.
And, oh, yeah, that's exactly why I thought about this, right?
Yes.
Because I'm on real estate. I have many clients and this and that. And sometimes I think about, either a seller or a buyer that we have, and maybe, hey, we should follow up. And so the tendency, because everyone is connected, is to send a short message. Hey, how's it been? Like, how are things going? And then you wait for them to reply so you can then develop on the conversation.
Yes.
But again, what if I was sending a letter? Hey, I'm writing because I've been thinking about you. These things have been going on our side. I just did an interview today with Bob and Viv, seeing how they were doing. Everything went great. Then, the chandelier fell and everything started burning, but that was great content for YouTube. I was wondering, how have you been? Last time we talked about this and that and that. Looking forward to hear from you. If you ever want to come over or whatever, I feel like everything is so easy now that we don't really appreciate it as much.
It's true. Yeah.
So it's like you're saying now you can do phone calls and, messages and whatever. And I think the reason why I thought about this is because you were talking about them coming here, right? I think if you lived right next to them, it's the same way when I go to my parents during the weekend, right? We go over there, we sit on the couch, we pick up our phones, we go on Facebook or Lunch Chinese or whatever, and we talk a little bit during dinner.
Exactly.
Even though we spend there the whole day, we barely even talk because it's kind of like routine, right?
It is.
But if they lived in the US or vice versa, and we visited, hey, let's do things together.
And that's exactly what happened when my grandchildren came. They were teenagers when I left, and I didn't see them very much. They had their own lives, and that's the way it should be, and that's the way it happens, and it's great.
Yeah.
I had a life, they had a life. We didn't interact, and when we did, it was great, but it didn't last very long. And when they came here, it was 24/7, us together,
Just hanging out.
talking,
Yeah.
sitting out on the deck, just talking, and it was wonderful. And we showed them everything. We took them to the São João Festival in Porto. We did all kinds of things, and they had a ball, and they'll never forget it. We made memories. They want to come back and stay longer. It was just great, and there was more quality time packed into that time than I'd probably had in 2 years before I left. So it really is great when they come and you've got time and you set aside time.
Yeah.
And you're not doing all the other things that you have to do when you're still working, or you're still, they're there and their friends are calling and all that. It's just very different.
It's very different.
Yeah.
Losing access to certain things really makes you look at them in a different way, right?
Absolutely.
And I think it goes both ways. Like sometimes you lose things and you realize that either lose them or lose access to as
Yes.
conveniently, and you realize that, hey, I need to appreciate this more and take care of it more.
Yes.
But the inverse is also true. Sometimes maybe, your computer dies or whatever, and then you get a new one and you're like, hey, you know what? I had too much trash in there, too much clutter. Let's start over again. Like me with the Google Chrome tabs, right? I
Yes.
always have like dozens of tabs open. I
Yes.
never use them.
Yes.
And then something crashes and I'm like, oh, I lost everything. Oh,
Yeah.
well, let's start over.
Yeah.
And it starts cleaner for a few days.
One of the for a few days. One of the cultural things that I noticed in myself, that when you meet somebody on the street, in Portugal, tudo bem, and you're asking how are you, and you typically get a realistic answer, and people are happy to see each other. And they have some, I've learned to have conversation before I just launch into something.
And we had to learn that.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
in
yeah.
America, when you have a question and you start to text somebody, you text the question.
Yeah.
There's no hi, how are you?
Oh, I see.
Good,
I see.
good. How have you been? It's just, what do I do about this?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see.
And
I
we
see.
had to learn that
Yeah.
because
Yes.
it's not
really
like
did.
that here. Relationship is first here.
Yes.
And it's a good thing.
It
It's
is
a
a good
very
thing.
good thing.
Sometimes it can be a little frustrating. You have a small question and you have something that you want to get sorted out, and
It
instead of taking
can.
5 minutes to do it, you take
Yes.
2 hours because the person starts
That's
talking about their
okay.
family.
Yeah,
But
that's okay.
I have got a story on that just struck me so much. Maria is not on camera. We can't wait for you all to meet her. She's behind camera today. But
say hi, Maria.
Early on, once we got into this house, and we wanted to do a change in downstairs to put a kitchen back where it used to be, and it was going to require some plumbing and some electrical. And so Maria came over to be the interpreter, and so I'm listening to the plumber and the owner talking back and forth, and she's not saying a thing. Back and forth. She's not saying a thing.
And you're like, oh my God, what's going on?
And
Like, what are they talking about?
So
Did they find an ancient World War tunnel underneath the house?
Well, what's happening?
I whispered to Maria, what are they talking about? Basically nothing. And she was totally honest. But that's the culture.
Yeah,
and
it's the culture.
we love
Yeah.
it. And we've learned that you don't have. There are two sides of that coin. I like to get it deep. I don't like to just talk superficially. I like to get deep with people. I like to find out what they're thinking and stuff.
Yes. Here, it's going to be hard to not have that happen.
Yeah, but in even the small town Westcliff where we left, that was not the norm.
No.
The norm was basically getting down to business. And
Let's get down to business.
so anyway, just another cultural difference that we really appreciate.
Sometimes it can be a hindrance, though. Like we have a neighbor that sometimes when we're living with our car, right?
Yeah.
We get out of the gate,
Sure.
and they're like, "Oh," and we're like, "Okay." We roll down the windows. Maria knows where I'm going with this. Hey, how's it going? All good. Hey, Maria, how's your dad? I haven't seen him in a while. Oh yeah, everything's good. Hey, we gotta go pick up Bianca. Oh, okay, no problem. Hey, did you see that thing? Blah blah blah. It's 5 minutes later. Okay, we have to go. And I'm like, Maria, pull up the window. We're in a hurry.
Yeah.
But because
So,
Portuguese
two
people don't
sides.
want to be rude and appreciate the other's,
Yes.
respect the
Yes.
other's
Of
time.
course.
Yes. People don't really cut off. Have seen cases where people really had to be somewhere and they got stuck for like 30 minutes because they wouldn't say like, hey, I'm on a schedule.
I really have to go.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah.
Small aside, that's one of the reasons why if you schedule something here in Portugal, sometimes people will be late 15, 30, 45 minutes.
They are.
That's common. Even I sometimes do that because I still have a little bit of Portuguese curse. I really like to be on places on times, but sometimes it isn't 100% in our control.
Sometimes
Never
it's
know
not.
what can happen.
This is true.
Particularly if you have to get certain things fixed that
Yes.
don't just rely you before
Yes.
getting there,
Yeah.
or you're waiting in line, or somebody else is waiting in
on
line.
an
Or,
answer to get to the other. Yeah, I understand.
yeah. So again, quick life hack. If you're coming to Portugal, always expect people to be at least 15, 30 minutes late.
Yes.
They can be on time. Just don't expect it. And if somebody gives you like a time frame to get something done, like a new kitchen or whatever, we can get it done in 2 weeks, double or triple it. Okay, so maybe in a month and a half, we can expect to have this done.
Yes.
And now that's
is
not
true.
just Portugal. The small mountain community I lived in, that happened a whole
That
lot
happened too.
It happened
But
a lot. But
in Portugal, it's almost always.
we do hear
Yes,
that.
yes,
We do
yes.
hear
It's
that
almost
a lot.
always,
But,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. Like, as Portuguese people, we have that expectation already. But I do wonder if, like, having the American perspective, if that is a bit harder for
It
you to
is.
realize. Or if you have to tell yourself actively whenever somebody gives you a time frame, you're like, okay, good, but wait. I'm in Portugal. This guy is Portuguese. He has a beer belly. So I'm going to double or triple the time he
Yes.
gave me just in case.
It would help if everyone would do that. It would save so much frustration for everyone if
Yeah.
they would just know that and do it and not ask why. I have learned you don't ask why. It just is. It's
Yes.
just one of those things that is. And there's almost everything in Portugal that I ask why about because it is. Because that's just the way it is.
It is. It is.
And the
yeah.
harder you fight it, the more you're going to get, it's impossible. It's impossible. And once you get a Portuguese person saying, it's impossible, you're sunk. They're not going to do anything for you. So you might
Yeah.
You just
That is a good point, by the way.
Nod.
That is a good point, by the way. It's
Yeah.
all about expectations. And when Portuguese people tell you something, they mean it.
They do,
Doesn't mean they're going to pull through with it, okay? Like in that time
but they
frame.
mean it at that moment.
If somebody tells
Yeah.
you 2 weeks, they are 100% committed that they want to do it in 2 weeks. And again, I'm Portuguese. I have the background. I know what I'm talking about. But if they tell you 2 weeks, they want to have it done in 2 weeks. But then life gets in the way, or they
Right.
don't schedule, or whatever. And then like, oh, well, but hey, I'll take it another 2 weeks. Don't worry, I'll fix it, because they really want to do it in another 2 weeks. But then
Right.
things happen again.
Yeah.
So to that, there is a few things that, kind of like another tip here. It's that first, again, Portuguese people really do want to do that in the time that they say. So when they say it's impossible, like they really mean it. Like there's no way they can get that done for you unless they hate you for some reason. But that's hard unless
I'm
you really
talking
deserve
about
it.
if you have been rude to them, or you have pushed and you have risen your voice has gotten a few decibels higher, and they're angry at you, but they can't say they're angry at you. You get, it's impossible, and they're smiling the whole time. It's impossible,
Okay. Yeah.
and it's they're-
Conversation over.
It's like,
Yes.
I'm not going to do it now, no matter what you do.
Yes.
So it's just don't do that.
That's
Yeah.
a perfect example of
Yeah.
what Chris Voss says, which is never treat anybody that can make your life harder by inaction poorly.
No, don't do it, especially not in Portugal. Don't
And
do it.
Anywhere.
Another way
Yeah.
to clarify this, there was someone that made a website that was about anonymous confessions. The idea is that people could go in there, read at what other people have done, and be like, okay, I'm not the most evil person in the world, like other people do this
Right.
too.
Right.
And there was this guy that worked at Starbucks, and he sent, proof that he really did work there, and he just said, I give decaf to people who are rude to me. So if you think you're developing a resistance to coffee, maybe you're not.
Yeah, maybe not.
being
Maybe
too-
you should
too
just
polite
be nicer.
to people
Yeah.
there, right?
Oh, that's
Be
right.
polite.
Because I mean, like every time you're talking to someone, you're in some sort of negotiation. But again, Portuguese people really are, they want to do their best. And
do.
there is actually one thing that I always tell in the first meeting I have with new potential clients, before they sign anything, before they agree with anything, I let them know, hey, just so you know, there is a high chance that we're going to let you down. Real estate is a complicated process. There are a lot of people, in the mix. Here in Portugal, things are typically done a bit slower. And it's not that people don't want to help it or to do it right. But for example, for me to, get the document from the town hall, get an inspection, get this, get that. Somebody will gonna need to talk to the owner and then talk to this person and then talk to that person. So each point during that chain of commands, there's a good chance that time is gonna double.
Well, one of the things I was trying to think whether we'd gotten the house. We had just got it. We hadn't furnished it yet. But one of the things I've made some shorts on that I've never posted anywhere is the differences in living here from a structure perspective, from heating, cooling, insulation, and all that. And that's something I think we need to talk about a little bit. That's part of what we're doing by introducing people to Portugal with exploratory trips and that kind of thing. The first time I saw daylight coming in under the tiles, it blew my mind because in the United States, everything has roof insulation, just everything.
But you mean like windows too, or you just,
No, just-
under the tiles itself?
Yeah, under the tiles themselves.
You
can see out.
Yeah,
you know.
particularly older buildings.
Yeah. Well, and this one's built in '91, I think.
91.
And so I started uncovering differences that, for me, being from a construction building background, were just really a surprise. And
Like the pipes outside.
Yes.
yes, Yes, well, I'll get to that one. So they are that way so they can breathe, because particularly here in the north, it's very, very humid.
Yes,
And,
moist.
yes, damp. The
Downright wet sometimes.
downright wet sometimes.
Dripping.
Yes.
But we're insulating the attic floor to compensate for it. You know, there are things you can do, but this house, built in '91, was originally built with one heat source, one fireplace right here in this room, and so people, when they come, need to realize that there are adjustments beside the language. It is another significant difference, and we've often, in talking with people that are considering coming over here, and they're saying, I really like my heating and my air conditioning. I really like my comforts that I'm used to. We tell them flat out, get a newer build or a very, very recent rehab.
Yes,
a well-done rehab.
Or get ready to get your hands dirty.
Yes, and do it yourself.
And do it yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's just the way it is.
I usually tell people that the traditional Portuguese air conditioning is walking around the house in your underwear.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
And we've done that.
Yeah. We did learn though. We started watching how the neighbors controlled their temperature. And particularly in the summer when it did get hot, that first week it was hot. And then we realized that, wow, everybody opens their shutters and their windows first thing in the morning, cools the whole house down, and then as the sun, we do it as the sun goes around the house because we're at home. Or if we're leaving, we shut the windows
blinds
and the shutters back down.
Yeah.
We come home, it's like the house is air conditioned.
It is.
It's incredible.
That's the other great thing. You can stop if you have plans for the day to, I don't know, work in the yard, do whatever, and it's too hot. You drop everything and go to the beach. You drop all your shutters, go to the beach for the day, and you come home and it feels like your house is air conditioned. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. And then sometimes you forget, and then you get home to a stove. But
Yes, exactly. If you don't
has
close
happened.
the shutters, it's a different story.
That is happening.
yeah.
But those shutters work great.
Yeah. And like some of the traditional homes, and it's also Portuguese custom to have a lot of furniture and stuff everywhere.
Yes.
So sometimes you have like cupboards and whatever right in front
Sure.
of the window, and then you have to climb over, and then
Yes,
it's one of
yes.
those manual windows that you need to open, and you lock
Right.
it on the outside, and doing all of that sometimes it's
It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
No, you can get to all of our windows. We keep them open quite a bit.
Yeah. And the other thing, Portuguese house construction, United States, the open building plan, being able to see all around is that's what is kind of a norm, and we have doors to every room, and so in the wintertime, if we need a space heater, we just heat the room we're in.
Yeah.
And so that's also another way that we've adjusted.
You mean in the US you don't have a door for every room?
Oh
No.
Let him up so he
How
can.
does that
Come
work?
here, Gus.
Well, you have doors
You just
on
live in a square?
No,
And then that's the corner of the sleeping?
the doors and the bathrooms have. I mean, the bedrooms and the bathrooms have doors, but
That's about
kitchens,
it.
dining rooms,
Yeah.
all those, they don't
That's
have
about
doors.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, I wonder
Yeah.
if that's the reason why Portugal has doors everywhere to
It
help
is.
with the heating and
It
cooling.
is.
Well, at
It's
least
to
that's
heat the
our
room you're
impression.
in. That's
Yeah.
we assume that was why.
That's also probably why there were particularly older homes had so many corridors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So-
Because every room could be shut off.
Yeah. Well,
that
even-
makes science.
Yeah.
Yeah. We even have doors halfway down our hallway, so
Yeah,
that you
to
can
heat the front
you
half
can
of the house.
close those.
Yeah.
Imagine that, a door,
Yeah,
like
in
you
your
have a
hallway.
corridor and you have a door
Yes.
in the middle of that corridor, so you
Yes,
can
and-
open it to another corridor.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So,
right in
well,
front of
because
that
all
corridor.
the bedrooms are back there, so at night you could heat all your bedrooms and close off the front of the house. And the daytime you can heat the front of the house, close off all the bedrooms.
Yeah.
So this was a really fancy
So-
home in 91.
Yes.
I mean, it's
It
still a
was
very
well
nice
thought
home.
out. It was thought out.
well thought out.
I don't know if they can see on the cameras, but you have all the little details.
Yes, it's very pretty.
yeah.
It's very
Speaking
pretty.
of which, in the first video, there were people asking, "Show us your house."
Oh, yeah.
Well, this is it.
Yeah, this is it.
Hey, you know what? Maybe we'll put the link down below of their YouTube channel where they give you a house tour. Maybe.
We could do
Maybe.
that.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. So that's
Be
gonna
happy
get
to.
done.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, it's going to be here in the comments.
Yes.
Sorry, it's going to be here in the description. If you don't see it, leave us a comment and complaint, so we can take care of that.
That's just another one of the distinctives. Maybe that's a good way to put it. Instead of differences, distinctives.
So
It's different.
I am curious though. You were talking about installation and construction, so I understand that you came from a place that could get fairly chilly.
Oh,
Fairly chilly.
yeah.
So how would you compare maybe the insulation or like the like looking at the construction and the building? I haven't been there. You've been in both places.
Okay.
How would you compare it? What would be different? What would your recommendations differ if I was going to like the home you had in Colorado, or if I was coming to this home not knowing about either?
Well, that's wow. The biggest difference is the vapor barrier and insulation, because these until you get today they're using styrofoam block and concrete here for insulation and that kind of thing. Again, it goes to new builds. In an older house like this, and even in a whole lot of new construction, even the new block type square construction that is very common here, the structure is hollow clay block tile with concrete. The main support is concrete, poured concrete, and then in between that, the walls are made out of clay tile, and then they're covered. Today, they're covered with an insulation barrier and a moisture barrier. Up until I've been told by construction/code type people that wasn't an absolute requirement until something like 2015. Does that sound about right?
What, the insulation?
The insulation.
I don't recall the dates of those requirements. No.
Okay, but so it's only in recent history that having any insulation is the norm.
And most of the installation here starts at about 1 inch thick, and ours is
And
like
we're-
8
yeah.
inches thick.
Our ceiling insulation in Colorado, where it got colder than, for American, obvious, colder than 20 below Fahrenheit. For here, it's like colder than 28.
Jeez.
So negative
Negative
20 Fahrenheit, or negative something like 25, 28 Celsius.
Damn.
Cold.
Yeah, it got cold. And so our ceiling insulation would be 12 to 18 inches in a lot of the area where we were. And so that's a significant difference. The venting here, I do notice certain houses with clay tiles that have a vent in them, but a lot of them, it's just the venting is the fit of the tile. Having the tile roof that sits there that's not fastened at all, that just sits there, that was another shocker. You can get out of any attic anywhere you want.
And it breathes through the attic as well.
It breathes through the attic.
Yeah.
So, but the driest house we were in here of traditional construction like this had a little vent through the wall in each room.
I wonder if they have like a machine that's forcing air, a forced air
That
machine.
house didn't.
It didn't?
It was all closed up
Yep.
and closed up for 4 months.
Because when you use those machines, you also put those small vents
Yeah.
and holes
Yeah.
in the places.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is one thing that it's becoming more common.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I am recommending, and I even considered whether or not to put one in our house and doing that investment, because it really does help with the air.
It makes
We
a
do
lot
have
of
an air
difference.
purifier, so it's not
That
as...
helps, yeah.
But one thing that you're talking about, the clay tiles, it is one of my personal opinion, but I kind of feel like we shouldn't really be doing construction with those orange tiles anymore,
Right.
those orange clay tiles anymore, because particularly when I see modern homes,
Yeah.
right, being built and I see them use those clay tiles, maybe I'm being some kind of weird construction racist, but I don't feel like that material should be used anymore because you now have these thermal blocks, right? Of course, they're more expensive, but I mean, you know, you're constructing a new home and then you're selling it for hundreds and thousands, and it's not that much better than old homes and uncomfortable, and you'd have to waste tons in
Electricity. to
electricity to maintain it. Like it doesn't make sense to me. And the other thing is that it then gets covered. So sometimes it's hard to figure out whether a modern construction you're buying really has that good insulation and that good stuff inside, or if it's just cheap, right? And usually builders that go for those cheap materials, they cut corners elsewhere.
Yes.
You know, but we're not getting into there today.
No.
But yeah,
Well, I have a different perspective on that. Is they may be using the clay tiles to keep a traditional look.
no, because it gets
But
covered.
it's not traditional. It's all covered. It's not.
It
He's
gets
talking about
covered.
the ones
Like-
inside the wall.
Even those
Oh,
square.
you're talking. I thought you were talking about on the roof. You're
No.
talking
Oh,
He's
no,
talking
no,
about
no,
the
no.
wall.
I-
Inside the wall.
Maybe I should have said bricks instead of
Okay.
tiles.
Yeah.
Blocks. Yeah.
Yeah, those clay
Tile
blocks.
blocks,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. That. Yeah, my bad.
They now do have them that are filled with foam, so you can
Which
actually
does help.
get clay tile blocks filled with foam.
Yeah, but you know the ones I mean, like those that
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
like waffles.
Right.
And they're hollow.
Those orange ones
Yeah.
that have many holes.
Right.
I mean, if those are used in internal walls, that's fine because I mean, whatever.
Can't see them,
But with
there are better things
with
to use.
outside walls, you know, There are kind of some ways of testing, like you can check the caderno de encargos, which is like the building plan of thing. We're going to use these materials. But people don't always do what's written in
Yeah.
there. So.
That's true.
Yeah, but
That's true.
the new ones that I've seen typically, they instead of just plastering the outside, they do have an insulation board.
Yeah, and rock wool and
Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it. But if you want, if you're coming here and you at least want a house that's got a mini split, an individual room unit, or you
Those work great.
Yeah.
yeah.
Or a house that's been insulated or new construction, because the older ones, you know, we do end up spending time. We don't heat the whole place in the winter.
Yep.
We really don't. So
Yeah, neither do we at our house.
Okay.
We have this space heater. We put it in the room we're on, and
Yes.
one advantage is that when it's like the winter times, it does help us be more closer together as a family because we all go to the same place.
Otherwise,
and,
you'd
yeah,
freeze.
it's comfortable in here.
Instead of each one being in their own corner.
Yeah, that's funny, but but very true.
Yeah. I mean, it's like that Chinese saying, 塞翁失马,焉知非福. I think I said that correctly, kind of, or I just insulted someone's ancestors. But it's something along the lines of, the old man lost its horse, and it may be a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a saying that's meant to show that bad things happen for the best reasons, and also vice versa.
Oh yeah.
Like if something good happens, don't get too arrogant because it may be for a bad reason. I can
Yes.
tell you that story later.
Yes.
So anyway, that's the construction difference.
So in other words, you guys regret moving to Portugal.
Welcome to our village of Ponta de Lima. She has 900 years this year, today. It was the day Queen Teresa gave Ponta de Lima their charter. So she is the oldest village in Portugal, but people will argue with you about that, and it's very hard to prove. So, but today we're claiming it.
And as we're here in front of the bridge, as you're looking at the end of this first segment of video, talking recap with Vitor, we want to invite you to go over to our channel, Bob and Viv in Portugal, and there you can see a little bit more, particularly about the realities of immigration burnout.
There is such a thing. Yeah.
and we address that on the next video. So we invite you to go there and enjoy at Bob and Viv in Portugal. And thank you for watching this so far. We appreciate it. Bye from Ponte Lima.
Bye.